Welcome to Tales That Stay, stories that stay with you.
There is a silent thief that has stolen more dreams than failure ever could. It does not crash into your life with noise. It does not destroy things in a single day. Instead, it speaks softly. It whispers, "You can rest today." It says, "You deserve a break." And most dangerously, it promises, "You can start tomorrow." The strange thing about this thief is that people rarely notice it while it is happening. Years pass before they realize something valuable is missing. That thief is laziness, and the cost of laziness is rarely paid immediately. It is paid slowly, through lost opportunities, fading discipline, and the quiet disappearance of potential. In a small and quiet town lived a young man named Adrian. Growing up, Adrian had always been known as the intelligent one. His teachers often praised his understanding of complex ideas, and his classmates would sometimes ask him for help before exams. Whenever adults spoke about his future, they used the same sentence: "This boy has great potential." For a long time, Adrian believed those words were enough. Because things came so easily to him in school, he rarely needed to work very hard to succeed. When others stayed up late studying, Adrian would simply review the material once and still perform well. Slowly, without realizing it, he began to believe something dangerous. He believed that effort was optional. He thought that when life truly demanded greatness from him, he would naturally rise to the occasion. Until that moment arrived, he allowed himself comfort. After graduating from university, Adrian accepted a job at a small logistics company. The work was not demanding, the office environment was relaxed, and the salary was enough for a modest life. Every evening he returned home with the same quiet promise in his mind. He would improve himself. He would start learning new skills. He would work on his ideas. He would build something meaningful with his life. But there was always a small condition attached to that promise. He would begin tomorrow. Tomorrow he would read the business books he had purchased months ago. Tomorrow he would wake up earlier and build better habits. Tomorrow he would start planning the future he often imagined. Tomorrow always felt reasonable. It felt responsible, even wise, to wait for the perfect moment. But tomorrow has a strange habit. It never arrives. Weeks slowly turned into months. The routine of Adrian's life became simple and predictable. He woke up in the morning, went to work, completed his tasks, and returned home, tired but comfortable. In the evenings, he told himself he deserved relaxation after a long day. So he scrolled through social media, watched videos, and let the hours pass without resistance. Sometimes, late at night, a small thought would appear in his mind. Is this really the life you wanted? For a moment, that question would make him uncomfortable. But the discomfort never lasted long. He would reassure himself with the same familiar idea. There is still time. That sentence gave him peace. It also slowly stole his future. One evening, Adrian received a message about a university reunion. Many of his old classmates were gathering after several years apart. At first, he almost decided not to go, but curiosity convinced him otherwise. When he arrived, the room was filled with familiar faces and warm conversations. At the beginning, everything felt the same as the old days. People laughed, shared stories, and remembered their time in university. But as the evening continued, Adrian began to notice something different. Many of the friends he once studied with had moved forward in life. One of them had built a successful online business. Another had become a senior manager in a growing company. Someone else had moved abroad to continue their studies. Listening to their stories created a strange feeling inside Adrian. These people were not necessarily more intelligent than him. In fact, some of them had struggled with subjects that Adrian had once mastered easily. Yet, they had progressed, they had grown, they had acted. As the conversations continued, Adrian slowly realized something uncomfortable. The difference between them was not talent. The difference was discipline. They had taken small steps every day, while Adrian had been waiting for the perfect moment to begin. That night, he returned home quietly. The apartment felt strangely silent. Without thinking too much, Adrian opened an old drawer and found a notebook he had used during his final year at university. Inside the notebook were pages filled with ideas, plans for businesses he once wanted to start, lists of books he intended to read, skills he promised himself he would learn, and next to many of those ideas were simple notes written in his own handwriting. Start tomorrow. Adrian sat down and stared at those words for a long time. Suddenly, he understood something painful. Laziness had not taken his intelligence. It had not removed his abilities or destroyed his dreams directly. Instead, it had quietly taken something even more valuable. It had taken his time, and time, once lost, never returns. That night, Adrian could not sleep. His mind kept returning to the same realization again and again. Potential means nothing without action. For years, he had believed that talent would eventually carry him forward. But talent that remains unused slowly fades. The next morning, his alarm rang like it always did. His first instinct was the same as every other day. He reached for the snooze button, but this time he stopped. He remembered the notebook. He remembered the reunion. He remembered the years that had passed while he was waiting for tomorrow. For a few seconds, he sat quietly on the edge of his bed. Then, without motivation and without excitement, he made a simple decision. He stood up. The change that followed was not dramatic. Adrian did not suddenly transform into a completely different person. The process was slow, sometimes frustrating, and often uncomfortable. He began waking up a little earlier each morning. At first, it was only 30 minutes earlier than usual. During that time, he read books he had once postponed reading. After work, he spent small portions of his evening learning new skills online. Some days he felt tired and tempted to stop. Some days, he failed to follow his plans perfectly. But he had learned something important. The real battle was not against difficulty. The real battle was against delay. So every time the thought appeared in his mind, "I'll do it tomorrow," he reminded himself of the cost he had already paid for that habit. Slowly, almost invisibly, the small daily efforts began to accumulate. His mind became sharper. His focus improved. His confidence started growing in ways he had never experienced before. Months later, he began applying some of his new skills at work. At first, his manager noticed small improvements in his performance. Then larger responsibilities were given to him. Opportunities that had once seemed distant slowly moved closer. But the most important transformation was not in Adrian's career. It was inside his thinking. He no longer believed success would appear one day through talent alone. He understood that progress is built through daily discipline. Years later, Adrian looked back on the time when laziness almost defined his life. He realized that laziness had never tried to destroy him all at once. It had tried to keep him comfortable enough to delay effort, comfortable enough to ignore potential, comfortable enough to waste time. And that is why laziness is so dangerous. It does not feel like failure. It feels like comfort. But comfort becomes expensive when it replaces growth. Every day that we delay action, a small piece of our potential disappears. Not dramatically, but quietly. The tragedy is that most people never notice this loss until much later in life. And by then, the price has already been paid. So if there is one lesson hidden in this story, it is simple. Success is not usually destroyed by failure. It is destroyed by waiting. Every time we choose comfort instead of effort, we quietly invest in regret. And regret, unlike discipline, becomes heavier with time. The question is not whether we have potential. Almost everyone does. The real question is whether we are willing to pay the price required to use it. Because the cost of discipline may feel uncomfortable today, but the cost of laziness is something far more painful. It is the slow realization that the life we once imagined could have been real, if only we had started sooner.